thought I'd do another tutorial on the CG side of things. And this one's going to be a little different. So this is how to make a split mold of something like this. Now in real life, if you had this part, it'd probably be quite tough just because gluing the cardboard or poster paper, whatever, in a very tight area, especially like very confined corners and everything. So this is where the perk of CGI comes in. So this is a canard I designed for my buddy's car, and it's actually another video I'm doing in real life. I'm recording the process of it. I already got the driver's side done. I'm doing the passenger side, and since it's an interesting topic, I figured I'd make a recording of that process. But meanwhile, I'll do a little video on the CGI portion. So what I have here is obviously the CAD scan of a bumper, and I designed it so it just fits very flush with the OEM bumper. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the bumper, and I'll just save this as a separate file just for the sake of keeping it clean. So I'll just name it tutorial and put it in here so that way I don't accidentally overwrite a file. So 001. So what I have here is the canard. As you can see, for those of you that don't know how CGI topology works, is all these little squares represent a polygon. The more polygons you have, the smoother the surface. The least amount, the less smooth, but easier to work with. So whenever I'm actually creating the data, I keep it pretty low, and I'll show you, like when I started, it was really low amount of polys. It was actually even less. So as you can see, this model took a few steps of subdividing, manipulating, subdividing, changing, adjusting. And so at the end, where I end up is somewhere like this. This is the final part that I would 3D print the mold out of. So while this is great, it doesn't really do anything good for the mold. And now the way I would approach a part like this is obviously you want to divide it in half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my object, and it's important to have a master edge. So for me, this right here is the perfect center between the top and the bottom splits, if you will. So the way I'm going to treat this is my dividing line. So I selected all these edges, and then I'm going to create a separation. So here I'm just going to create an opening, and now if I select the top, it's one object, select the bottom, it's another. So as you can see, now we have the two pieces. So what I am going to do now is detach that. So as you can see, I have the top piece, the bottom piece. So this would be my bottom part of the mold. This would be the top. Now, what I did the first time around is I designed the flanges to be ideal for the layup. And while that was great, it made connecting the two pieces a nightmare because nothing actually matched up, because this carbon fiber excess went one direction, the bottom went another, and that was just a nightmare to glue. So I was talking to Steven. He's Steven Nelson. And he gave me just advice of make the split mold match up. That's how you're going to be able to, put the parts back in the mold, connect it, and call it a day. So I did that, and so far it's working out very well. I haven't made the parts yet, but I'm prepping the mold, and everything's lining up amazing. So I figured I'd make a tutorial of how to design a split mold that's symmetrical, if you will. So now that I have the two pieces, I'm going to select one of the halves. Select this border tool in 3D Studio Max, and with the border tool selected, I'm doing create shape from selection, and I'm going to do linear. And now when I have this, I have a shape, if you will, of the border. That's as simple as it gets. So what I'm going to do now is add a modifier called sweep. I'm going to create a bar, length 0, or actually width 0, and then length, let's say, so when I do my flanges, I like to keep them around 60 to 70 millimeters. So I'm going to do 60. As you can see, it becomes a mess. So now all I got to do is go on this bottom left or top right. So you just pick one that kind of works out to make the shape come out from the edge. So as you can see, now we're getting a flange going. And this is fantastic. So now what I'm going to do, so now see if I change the angle. See how the angle is changing from this outside? So now I'm going to click this button, and this allows me to now change the angle from this perspective. So this is awesome. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, okay, how do I see this flange working out for the best? So this isn't really ideal. This isn't bad. So I might just leave it at this. And actually, let me see here. I'll do it like that. So for the most part, that's feeling good. As you can see, this area is a mess down here. And then this area is kind of a mess as well, which is not ideal, but it's an easy fix. This is where it's not all like automated. This is where a little bit of manual labor comes in. So now I'm going to do is convert to editable poly, and there's shortcuts for all these, but I'm just doing visuals. So anyone new could just follow before they really start learning shortcuts. I'm going to select an edge, click ring. Now I hold Control and press the polygon tool, which is this fourth icon. Now I have these polygons selected, and believe it or not, this is a 2 or a 3D object. Because we made that one width 0, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So as you can see, it's still a square. And I don't want it to be a square. I want it to be a plane. So now what I'm going to do is with these selected, I'm going to do Control I, and that selects all other polygons except for those. And now I'm just press delete. And now it's hard to tell when you're new to this, but right now these faces are inside out, and the way you could tell is the way this line is. That should be a white line, and it's a gray line. So I'm going to do Control A, I'm going to do flip, and there we go. As you can see, the lines are now white, so I know it's facing the right direction. So now what I want to do is I'm going to select everything. I'm going to click this unlink button. Then I'm going to click the link button, deselect the outside flange, and then I'm going to link the top and bottom pieces to the actual flange itself. And the reason why I'm doing that is I'm going to rotate the whole object something like this. Kind of try to level it out so it's flat. And this is going to make it a little easier on the design side. So right around here, like that. And now, what I mean, easier on the design side. Now I'm going to go and unlink everything again. So as you can see, this right here is a mess. This is not ideal for neither layout. It's just very inconvenient. I'd feel a lot more comfortable if it going out flat. So what I'm going to do is go into the edge mode. I'm going to select this set of inside edges right here. And now I'm going to extrude them out like that. And this is useless, but this is a reference backup. And the reason why I did that, now I'm going to select these polygons. So I pressed 4 for the polygon tool. I'm going to delete them. Now, as you can see, I have no flange here. Now I'm going to go back, double click this selection, and see how it went all the way around. I don't want that. So I'm going to hold Alt and deselect all the other edges except for only the face. Now I'm going to just hold Shift and drag these out like so. So now, as you can see, the flange is just coming out exactly how you would want it. Nice and straight. So now the only thing left to do is go in top view, move this vertex out, and now this one I'm just going to click target weld and weld it up to here. Take this one, target weld it up to there. And now the only thing we got to fix is this set of edges right here. Now, there's 2 ways of doing it. You could go in and just do the extrude method that I did for the side, or you could go in, select these vertices, and the shortcuts that I'm using is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 if element, and that just switches between vertex, edge, border, polygon, and element. And now I'm just going to drag these just upward like so. I'm just going to offset them just a little bit. So as you can see, this is looking pretty good, but it's still a mess. There's all this weird stuff happening. So now the next thing I'm going to do is in the top view, or in this perspective view, I'm going to click quick slice, and I am just going to trim the fat like so, because I don't need that triangle. So there we go. So there's part of the flange. But as you can see, this is a mess. This is not looking good yet. All these edges intersecting with one another, that's not good at all, especially when you 3D print it, it's going to create problems. So select the edge mode, double click these edges, and you want to make sure it only selects this set. Now what you want to do is, typically in 3D Max, go to freeform, click down this little icon right here, and it's going to open up a whole bunch of things. Now if you go to the modeling, there's a thing that says loops. You want to click on loops, then you want to click on loop tools, and see this relax button? Just start pressing it over and over and over. As you can see, it's smoothing out the problem area on its own. So this little fix, this little relax button, literally fixes all the issues with that flange and levels it all out. Now I'm going to go in, I'm going to select this set and just relax that. As you can see, that's looking good. I'm going to go over here, do the same exact thing. Select all these edges, relax, and that just helps space it out, smooth it out so it's nice and round, and it flows very smoothly from edge to edge to edge. So there we go. And then last but not least, select this set of edges. And as you can see, the ideal situation is to have the polygons as organized as possible. And because we have this big gap, it's not the best situation. So I'm just going to create some edges manually. There we go. Now I'm going to deselect this. And now with this whole setup, I'm going to just click relax a few times. And there we go. So now the flange is looking pretty damn nice. It's very smooth, very easy on the eyes. Now the only thing I'm going to do is go in, select these edges right here. I'm going to hold control and press backspace. That completely removes the edge and vertice. I'm going to select this vertice. I'm going to turn on edge constraint right here. Drag it all the way out to one point, deselect, and then drag again to the middle. And the reason why I did that is now we have this perfectly straight. So now this side of the flange is nice and flat. Now I'm going to go in, select this, and then connect. And there's a shortcut. It's for me, it's X. As you can see, it just does this. And for manually, just click cut, vertice to vertice, like so. So now, this is the flange. It's looking really good. Now, I added a Turbo Smooth modifier. And remember how I mentioned the whole subdividing? That's what Turbo Smooth does. It automatically adds more polys to the model and smooths it out. So as you can see, with us doing Turbo Smooth, there's something weird happening here, and that's because I forgot to delete this set of edges that I extruded out. So I'm going to delete those. There we go. Perfect. So now I have my flange complete. So the last things left is to actually, create the actual split mold, because the flange is only the key part of it. Now we have to have this backside mold and the front face mold. So what I'm going to do is go back, delete that. I'm going to duplicate Control V the flange, and then I'm going to open up my layers, go in, and I am going to hide everything except for the first flange, and let's say this part of the model. So this is going to be our top face mold. So now with this flange selected, I'm going to add a modifier called shell. And it could create some issues. So as you can see, there's some bizarre things happening. So the one thing I want to do is I want to go in and see how I selected these vertices, and it says 2. That means there's something weird happening. So you just press weld, and that fixes the problem. It just welds the 2 vertices together. So same thing here, weld. And now if I add shell, as you can see, the results are much better. So this looks great. Now, what I personally like to do is there's this, unfortunately it's not free, it's a paid plugin called Shell Pro for 3D Max. It's really good for this kind of situation, making flanges and whatnot. It does what Shell does, but just a little better and a little I guess you could say smoother results. There's a lot more settings you could play with of how it rounds things off, things like that. So Shell Pro is a really nice add-on that I use. So now that I did that, typically for my molds, I like to do about 15 millimeters. So even though it's not saying what measurement it is, it's in millimeters. So 15 there. Perfect. So now I'm going to do is convert to editable poly. I'm going to select this edge, ring, press delete. Perfect. So now what I'm going to do is use the bridge tool. So click bridge. And I am just creating a polygon from one to another. So as you can see now, we cut across. Now what I'm going to do is do the border tool, and this allows me to quickly select these edges right here. And the reason why I want to select them is I want to relax them. round it off, make it a lot easier to bridge across. Now I'm going to do B is my shortcut for bridge. So I'm going to do bridge, bridge, and bridge. Perfect. So I'm going to leave this corner as is for the moment. Now I'm going to go in and then bridge from here to here. Select border, bridge those. As you can see, we're getting this triangle. Now what that means is there's more edges on this side than this side. And typically, if you're trying to do a really nice model, you don't want any triangles or 5-point polygons. But because this is a mold, especially the back side of a mold, to me, it's not as important as the face. The face that I modeled, as you can see, I try to keep it all polygons or quads. This one, it's whatever. So there we go. I got that done. Now I'm going to go in, select this. I'm going to click this button that says cap, and that just creates a messy polygon with everything. So this is looking pretty good. I'm going to Control A for select everything. Here under the smoothing groups, I'm going to click clear all. I'm going to press smoothing group 1. And what's doing is it's grouping everything that's like you're in group 1. And if you do the turbo smooth, there's a button that says smoothing groups. So when I click that, as you can see right now, nothing happened. It is what it is. It's the same. Now the reason why I did smoothing groups 1 is because now if I go polygon, select by angle, let's say 45 degrees. Now I'm going to select this. I'm going to make this smoothing group 2. Go over here, make this 3. Make this 4. Go over here, make this 5. And then this one, make it 6. So now if I do turbo smooth, as you can see, it's separated every smoothing group into its own element. So when it's smoothing, it's leaving these as if they're not blending, thus creating a perfectly razor sharp backside flange, whatever you want to call it. So the last thing I'm going to do is go in. I'm going to deselect this. I'm going to select my actual indent, the inside thing that I created that I mentioned was the messy polygons. And one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this smoothing group to like number 2. As long as your smoothing group's not touching, it will still keep it as an independent element. So now if I smooth it, as you can see, it fixed most of those issues. We still have a little hiccup here, which is, not ideal, but it doesn't really matter because with 3D printing, that's the printer's problem. Like it'll print just fine. I've done it. It works great. Now if I do all X, you can see the X-ray. And now if we do subdivide this by 3, as you can see, all of our this one's 2, so we'll do one more. It's important that all these edges right here line up, and they do. So now we have a perfect mold for the first half. So this is fantastic. This is done. This is ready to 3D print. And now if I do unhide all, so it's probably not allowing me. So I already had a button. Oh, okay. So perfect. Everything is unhidden. But as you can see, so now we have the top part of the mold done. I'm gonna hide selected. Now we're gonna do the bottom half. We're gonna do the same exact process, Shell Pro. We're gonna extrude it out in the opposite direction. Whoops, wrong thing. Oh, I'm having some graphics issues, I think. So I'm gonna go ahead and save it in case I have to restart the program. So I'm gonna do Shell Pro again. Yep, so I'm having some CGI issues, so I'm gonna pause the video and restart the program. All right, let's try this again. So I'm gonna select this. I'm gonna do Shell Pro. I'm gonna press 0, 15. There we go. I want 0 segments. So now, you see, now it's working fantastic. All right, so now we have the backside done, or we extended it out. Now I'm going to do convert to poly. My shortcut for that is Q. So that's what I did here. I'm going to go in, select these edges just like we did before, delete them. So now we're just working with this part. So there we go. Oh, okay. So before we do that, I'm going to undo some of these. Remember we had that issue with the 2 vertices creating a problem. So I'm going to do weld those. Again, I have shortcuts, but I've already shown in this previous step of how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. Perfect. So now Now that we have that, this is our actual like hero surface, of course. Unhide all, select this one, we're gonna flip the polygon. So now everything is fitting just nice. Now it's time to start doing the bridging again. So I'm gonna select this and go right here. But now, as you can see with this piece, because it is the inside, we're starting to get this weird like indent, like it's intersecting, which is not a big deal. So we're just gonna add an edge by connecting or quick connecting. I have a shortcut for that. I'm gonna do another one, and all I want to do is just kind of visually take it further away from the mold, so that, or from the hero surface, so that way it's allowing for some gap, thus creating strength on the 3D print. So there we go. So now I did that, and you kind of really want to do it all at once in terms of like working with a bunch of these edges, but I've already done it this way, so I'm just click connect again, not a problem. I'm gonna just do a little sloppy rotation like so. There we go. And this is kind of a sloppy execution, so you could spend a little more time getting it better, because it all comes down to how you want this backside to look. And for me, it's the backside of the mold. It's not really important, because as long as my surface is good, this is just so it's all confined and closed and not leaking for the infusion process. So the only thing you want to make sure you pay attention to is not to accidentally select these hero surface areas, like the front face of the flanges. So when you're doing these little quick cuts and add-ons, because that will screw everything up. So there we go. Now that I have that done, I think what I'll do is I'll select these, go to loop tools, and just click relax a few times just to smooth it out. It's not going to be a perfect fix, but it's going to be better than it is right now. So there we go. There we go. Now I'm going to just quickly bridge across. Whoops. And I'll probably just manually bridge a few times. Go. As you can see, it's a little sloppy, but it's going to get the job done just fine. Especially once I separate it into a separate smoothing group. Now what I'll do is just turn on Turbo Smooth just so I kind of see what's happening. Because again, the important part is it's not touching the surface of the mold, because we need that gap. So now what I'll do is go in, I'll bridge across here. Then what I'll actually do is bridge in this direction to kind of help close it off better. Cap this one off. There we go. Do another bridge in that direction just to kind of help us keep the surfaces away from the actual mold surface. Like that. And then what I'll do is probably like this. Cap that one. Now I'm gonna do like a quick auto bridge, and I don't like how this happened. It's like, even though I'm not trying to make it perfect, there's some things that like if you could avoid, it'll be better. So this is where I'm gonna manually create the polygons of how do they connect. Now I'm gonna cap these two. All right, that looks great. All right, now I'm gonna turbo smooth it. As you can see, we are closed off. Yeah, it's a messy area, but this is where the whole smoothing group stuff comes back in. So we're going to turn that on. 45. So like I mentioned, you could group them. So we're going to select these two. As long as they're not touching, it will work. So this will be 2. This one will be 3. I'm going to select this face. Now just deselect all these polys like so. All right, make this smoothing group 2. And now if I turbo smooth with smoothing groups on, as you can see, the results are way better. So there's that. That to me is good enough. I'm not upset with this at all. So now let's see. We have 3 turbo smooths on that, 3 on this. all of our edges look to be lining up, and the way we check it is we just add an edit poly. And now here's the deal. If you right click and go to convert to edit poly, it'll collapse everything. If you want to have kind of a non-destructive workflow, you just add it on top. And then like, let's say we attach this, right? And then if you don't want it, you just hide it, and you could always undo. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the border tool, Control A. I'm going to hold Control, press the vertice tool, and that selects all the vertices of the border is selected, which is right now we have two faces. We have this border and this border, so two borders. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Weld, 0.01. I want almost no gap at all. And now if we do Control A, and if we did our job right, there's no border left, meaning this is a perfectly closed 3D model. This is perfect and ready for 3D printing. So there's that one. Hide that. Select this one. I'm going to just do a destructive workflow now. So as you can see, I have two different shades of gray, meaning this is inverted. So I'm going to select this face and click the flip button. There we go. Border, vertice, weld 0.01. Now if I do border, nothing gets selected, so we did our job right. And now, as you can see, a perfect split mold. If I'm rotating and you see these like weird little shades that are flickering, that means these polygons are all touching one another. So in this situation, this is what we want. And then here, the only thing I did do, as you can see, is we have a smoothing group issue. So this one's 2 and this one's 2. So maybe if I make this one 8, let's see what happens. There we go. So that fixed it. As you can see, our split mold perfectly matches up. We have the top face of the part, the bottom face of the part. And now this is ready to be 3D printed and assembled. And you will see the other video that I'm going to do of the actual project in real life and how that's working out. So this area also had some issues. Just going to throw a different smoothing ID on it. There we go. Perfect. Perfect split mold, and in real life my split mold matches up exactly like this. All the seams, everything is just working out amazing. So hopefully this helps someone, whether you're new to 3D, already doing 3D, or thinking about 3D. Maybe this will kind of help you see how easy it could be to make something like this.